No one named Kyle is allowed up here. What's going on, James? How
Good
old are you?
good evening, 32.
Oh, what brings you up?
I guess I'm trying to understand the particulars of the prompt. So, only a low value man would expect a woman to lower her standard. Um, I don't think this is a reasonable claim.
So then, if you're expecting a woman to lower her value, why? Let
Well,
me
you said
rephrase that.
standard or value, or are they synonymous to you?
Why would you expect a woman to lower her standard if you're able to meet it? I mean, it seems like you want her to come down to your level so that you don't have to rise to meet it.
Well, I guess we can discuss hypotheticals so I can see like where your logic is. Like, so for example, let's just say a man, I don't know, makes 60 grand a month. And the woman likes the guy, but because he doesn't make 70 grand, she's not going to lower her standard. And the guy's like, it's kind of stupid. You're missing out on a
That
guy
is,
who checks all your boxes, but you're just going to be picky on this one thing, 10K. You don't think that's a bit unreasonable?
I mean, that's up to her what's reasonable or not reasonable. But
I'm,
at the
I'm
end of the
asking
day,
I'm asking you. Would you do that? Let's just say there's a guy you meet. He makes 60 grand. He's the best type of dude. He's your cup of tea. However,
60
your standard
a
is
year or
70K.
60 grand a month? Because you said a month.
I'm sorry, 60K a year.
60K a year, that totally depends on where you live.
I'm miss asking
60K a
you.
year is not even that's not a livable wage even, you know.
But I don't think you're engaging with my hypothetical. It's just a hypothetical. If a guy makes 60K, but he meets all your other boxes, and you in the past you set a 70K standard, but this guy meets all your other boxes, are you going to lower your standard for this guy to
That
60K?
was kind of a hard hypothetical for me
I don't
because
think
one
it's
of my
hard at all.
standards is not income based. So I mean,
But
but
I'm
if
I'm just
another
asking
woman
you,
says
what,
that
what
that's
would
her
you do
standard, then I
personally?
agree with it. Yeah.
So you
I
would.
don't I don't think it's my place to say your standard is too high. I don't.
So okay, so let me ask you a question. The girl, she's looking for a dude, and you're saying you all right. So let's just say this is not you, it's your girlfriend, and you know this girl really likes this guy, but she's like, I mean, I know he makes 60K, but I mean, you and I, we both read on this list that that guy has to make 70K. You're gonna tell her, go ahead, girl, dump his ass. That's what you're gonna tell her.
I mean, that's really going to depend on the rest of her check boxes
Chelsea,
because
yeah. So I said he meets
you can
everything
easily
else. He
look at
met
it like
everything
a
else.
point system.
He met everything else.
That depends on what everything else is. You know what I
Chelsea,
mean?
whatever you want to say it is, it is. But the only
I
thing
mean,
he's
hey,
missing is he doesn't.
we're not interrogating Chelsea here. I'm asking the general public, why would you want a woman to lower her standard? If it's not because your value is low, then what is it?
I
Walk
gave you an
away.
example
You
why it
don't
would
meet
be
her standard, you
unreasonable.
need to go find someone that you don't have to campaign and beg and try and meet her standards. Fuck
No, I
her.
agree with you. A man should not beg, but I would
Let her
argue.
go. She's a snobby
But I would
bitch.
wait. Hold on now. See, that's what you're saying now. See that kind of shows
No,
your hand
I'm
right there.
saying if you're a guy, that's how you can look at it. Move along.
No, but that would be the
Don't try
case.
and don't shame her for her
That would be the
standards
case,
too
though.
high. Go find someone whose standards lower.
You're right. A man shouldn't grovel, but I would argue, I would say exactly so somewhere along the lines of what you said. She would be kind of snobby. She's like turning her nose up at a man because he doesn't make 10K enough money for her to
Well, I
engage.
mean, that's the red pill ideology is what makes a high value man is he makes a certain amount of money, he is a certain height, and he has a family and a certain kind of personality, right? So, I mean, these aren't my rules here. I'm not the one who said that was a high value man.
Yeah, but I don't even particularly ascribe to that. But I'm still like, trying to gauge
Well,
your
that's who I'm
perspective
having the
on it.
conversations with, though. That's the ideology that I'm arguing. We're just playing by their rules on this one.
But high value man
They're
is
the
not
ones
a
that
red
said
pill.
60K
It's
is
not a red pill
bullshit.
terminology. This is just something that they may have started to use or co-opt. But a high value man could be a religious person. It could be somebody who makes a woman laugh incessantly. It can mean many things to different women, right?
One woman could think the religious man is high value, and another woman can say, absolutely not. That
Right.
makes you lower value.
Yeah, but I
And
think,
that's fine.
but don't, but
You're
so you're
you're
saying
so low.
you don't actually believe this is just your prompt. Is that what you're saying?
I do believe this, yes.
All right. Well, then let's get to
I think that if there's a guy out there who is pursuing me and he's telling me that my standard is too high, I can only ask why. Why? Because you can't meet it? Because if you could meet it, you wouldn't be asking me to lower it.
if I could meet it, I wouldn't be asking you to lower it.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true. But that still doesn't answer the question of, you're not answering the question of, is a person reasonable for having too high standards? That's basically the
and
moral
my
of my
response to
hypothetical.
that is it's not up to you or me to decide if someone else's standard
Yeah, but
is where
that's
it should be.
obvious. Like, it's not up to you or me whether I decide to, like, I don't know, freaking do anything for that matter. That's an obvious
It's a
thing.
bit circular, isn't it?
No, I'm trying to get to the value system. I think the reason why you have this prompt is because it invokes values in other people and different perspectives. But I think we're on the opposite side of values because you're saying, who am I to make anybody do anything of that? I'm not trying to make anyone do anything. I'm trying to get at the root of the person's value system. Are they having standards just to have them? Because another reason why they could have such high standards is because they have walls that they're building up, right?
First, we would have to agree on what constitutes high or low standard. And I think the conversation that I'm trying to have is to say that you can't get to that secondary step because you don't determine what is high or low standard to someone else. Some people might say expecting 60K a year out of a man is a lot. And other people might say that's fucking not even, that's barely enough to pay the bills in this part of the country. Only you can decide what your standard is. And if someone else thinks it's too low or it's too high, then they're not the one for you.
So you don't think there's any other reason why that could be the case? You don't think there's
I
any other
think there's
reason
a
why a
lot
person
of
could have high
people.
standards for other reasons but just to have them? There's no other motivation but just having standards.
Of course. I mean, there's standards in everything.
Right, but you don't think people can potentially hold standards that are too high? You personally don't believe that someone can hold standards that are too high?
Even if I did, which I don't, do you think that it's up to you or me to tone police other people on that,
Well, this
to
isn't
like
tone
hold them
policing.
accountable and call them out on it? Because like I think there's way too many people looking at other relationships that they're not in and saying that this one isn't getting back what's proportionate to what they're putting into the relationship. And you don't know that,
But
because value comes from other things other than what you can monetarily gain by being with someone.
well, we can skip away from the monetary thing. It could be another reason.
Yeah.
But
Like you can look at a relationship and say, oh, he totally simps for her and she doesn't fucking do shit. She's just, a gold digger or whatever.
yeah, so
And
he's a simp and
maybe
she's a
he
gold digger, and they
absolutely
should
fucking feels
probably.
like he's getting what he pays for. Maybe he feels like he's getting more than what he pays for, but
Well, maybe he's just
there's
an idiot.
someone else on the outside saying you're paying too much for what you're getting. Well, who are
So,
you?
okay, so maybe the root of this you're questioning is it because you don't think anyone should have any opinions about any relationship if they're not
No,
in it?
I think that other people need to stop trying to police other people in their relationship dynamics and trying to say that one is getting more than the other is, and like it's not a fair trade.
But we
And
police each other
relationships
all the
aren't supposed
time.
to
We
be
police each other in
transactional in that
society.
way.
We police each other when it comes to shaming or outcasting. We police each other all the time, don't we?
I mean, do you want to know where my framework kind of comes from?
Could you just answer the question real quick? Don't we police everyone all the time for other reasons?
No.
No, no, not
So
out
if
loud.
you break the
We
law,
don't.
there's no police.
Yeah, but that's not the context we're talking about when we
Okay,
say
well, how about
police.
this? If you're a F boy and you come around your group of friends, aren't you going to warn your group of friends about this guy's behavior?
That's not
It
policing.
is policing because you're going to say, "Hey, look, man, you better watch out for this dude because he might be out for his intentions are not the purest, so you better watch out." Isn't that a way of policing? And you'll say,
No.
here's okay, I'll explain how it is policing because if the girl disregards what you guys are saying after every F boy that comes into the circle, you guys are going to start looking at her funny. Like, okay, well, we can't obviously trust her when it comes to relationships. She doesn't make the best choices. So, probably not going to look for advice from her, or I'll probably maybe even distance myself. We police each other all the time.
But
It's
that's not,
Go
no,
ahead.
that's
Go
not
ahead.
even a good example of policing because, you're letting her do, like, no one's forcing any woman or man to pick any particular person. Like, even the example you just gave, we let her do her thing, but, we might be like, oh, girl, like, what are you doing? Or, distance ourselves if it gets to that point.
But
But that's not
distancing
policing.
yourself is a way that you are trying to basically step away. And when you outcast another person, this tends to have a policing effect. The shaming,
No.
social taboos, and all these things. These are a way to kind of encourage behavior one way or another. Would you agree?
Sure, but at the same time,
But
you
no one's
know,
forcing anybody.
right, yeah. And also no one, like, you're not obligated to stay friends with someone if they have a really bad choice in partner. I mean, I can't imagine a situation where, I wouldn't want to be friends with a girl because of who she picks in a
Okay,
man.
well, can I give you an example?
Of sure, since you
So
know me.
I'm just asking you to gauge where your logic is at.
Oh,
So
go
in this
ahead.
hypothetical, uh, a girl a girl meets one of your really good friends. She meets a guy. You know he's a really good guy. You know his track record is clean, whatever, right? He's you in your eyes, he's like the perfect guy, quote unquote. But your girlfriend cheats on him constantly. He doesn't know about it. You know, maybe are you the type of, just two questions. Are you the type of person to tell the guy? Yes or no?
No,
Okay, well, are you going to treat this girl the same?
unless they were married.
Okay, they are married. They are married. So
Um,
they're married, and you're gonna tell her. You're gonna tell the dude.
I would tell her she needs to tell, or I'm gonna tell.
Okay, so but this is what I'm saying. This is a way that
No.
you're policing.
I've been asked this question before more than once in live panels, and the answer is still absolutely no. Because if my friend were doing that and I don't married or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you've had the discussion and you've made promises and commitments to be exclusive, it shouldn't matter if you're fucking married or not, firstly. Secondly, no, I will tell her about herself. I'll let her know that what she's doing is fucking wrong. And I will maybe even go so far as to end the friendship with her altogether and tell her, I can't be a part of your life if this is who you're going to be. But it's not my job to go and get in the middle of her marriage and tell on her. Absolutely not. My loyalty is not to her husband, it's to her.
Well, you off. Okay, so Chelsea,
I'm a girl's girl.
so all right. Well, Tiana, you're kind of on my side on that when it comes to I felt like I would have to step in, but on Chelsea's side, you're saying you would at least say, hey, look, if you don't quit doing
I'm
this,
not going
I'm
to be
out.
friends with her, but no, I'm
Okay,
not going to. No.
okay. So
That's fair too.
this is
I'm
the
not,
only.
I'm not the fucking marriage
All right.
police.
Well, I
I
mean,
don't hold her accountable to her marriage.
okay. Well, then I'm only just trying to prove the point that this is a form of policing. Okay. You can call it whatever you want, but it's like you're trying to say, hey, look, if you don't stop, there's going to be consequences. But you're only doing this because you're trying to set a standard for your friend so that, either you can distance yourself or in Tiana's case, you can try and like bring some law and order or some justice. Now, the only reason why I bring that up is because when we go full circle to the standards part, some people, like your friends, might check you like, hey, look, bro, or sis, you might need to lower that standard because it's not really that realistic. And if my goal is for you as my friend, I want you to be happy and I want you to get a man or a woman, I want to try and reason with you to lower your standards. I'm not forcing you to do it, but I'm at least trying to give you counsel. Does that make sense?
There's nothing wrong with that, with saying, hey, does it really matter if there's a little bit of cellulite? Does it really matter if her credit score is not an 800? Like, you can lower your standard a little bit when there's a really good, genuine person who could bring you a lot of joy in life. That's one thing. But that's not the vibe of this particular prompt, though. We're not talking about steering our friends toward being a little less shallow when it comes to picking, a relationship with someone else. We're talking about a woman like the one you see in this picture here, who obviously has her shit together, obviously has her finances and her career and her life together. And here comes a dude in jeans and a t-shirt with New Balances, all like, no, we should settle down and have babies, and you should quit your job because my pride can't handle you making more money than me, or, me not being the leader, or you not being submissive to me, and blah, blah, blah,
All right, well, that scenario can make a little bit more sense, but I'll also give you a counter scenario. Let's just say a guy meets a girl that he really likes. He's very, they're very compatible. However, she has a mouth on her. And he views that as disrespect a lot of times. He might request, hey, look, I want this to work, but I need you to watch your mouth, because to me, I take it as disrespect. And to her, this might be lowering a standard in the sense of I should be able to express myself however I want. I want to be around a man who will allow me to express myself at any extent. But this man who she knows is high value is going to say, hey, look, I want to reason with you, but this is kind of like a pain point for me. This is a boundary. So I'm just demonstrating a way as to which a man who she sees as high value can try and level with a woman to lower that standard. And this doesn't make him low value for doing it. He's actually being reasonable with her.
Yeah,
So
but
in
that's
your
kind
example,
of
the man just has a standard. He's not expecting her to lower herself or demean herself or, give up the wealth and the things that she's built to appease him. And in that situation, it sounds like he's basically just asking for respect, which
But
that's fine.
I'm only giving an example, whereas the prompt you're saying does not follow.
Right. And I'm responding by saying that example you gave doesn't really fit the prompt at all.
It absolutely does, because the woman has a standard that she wants to be with a man who will allow her to express herself however she wants. But this man is asking her to get rid of that standard and lower it to saying, yeah, I'll let you express yourself, but you better not disrespect me.
Okay, I'll let you. Let me ask you this, first of all. When did this come up? Like, is this the first date, or have they been dating for a while? Because this is, pretty dependent on how close and comfortable they are, and who is this man to her at this juncture of the relationship to be saying, I want you to use less profanity, or
I don't really think it's relevant, but it can be either or. I can hold a position either or. I mean, I can hold a position either or.
So
you can pick whichever one you want.
Either he's brand new, this is like the first or second date, in which case he should probably just move on instead of asking her to be different, because this is we just met. Or they've been together for a while and he strung her along and waited until he felt like it was his place to say, hey, I don't like how you
stringing
talk.
along? Why are you bringing malice?
Now that I have a place in your life where I feel like I'm allowed to tone police you, I'm letting you know. So he never said anything in the beginning. He was fine with it before, but now it's a problem that she uses profanity. And then my second point on that, you're muted, by the way. And then my second point on that would be, why is it disrespectful to him unless she's cussing? There's a difference between cursing and cussing at someone than there is cursing to someone. I know, because I have this dynamic with my mother. I use profanity and I say fucking shit and all the things in front of her every day, but I do not cuss at her. I do not cuss her out. There's a difference. So if he's considering it to be disrespectful just because I said the word Pussie, I know that's not the spelling, then we can't do this. And you also use the word boundary. Boundaries are for you. Boundaries are personal, not an external definition. Like that's for you, not other people. Now I'm done blabbering. Go ahead.
Yeah, would you mind repeating whichever point you want me to respond to? Because there's a lot.
Just dig in, bro. I'm gonna go refresh my drink.
It's crazy how you just mute and you blabber on and I can't talk and then I can't respond. But I mean, Tiana, I'll just do you agree with her statement? Because I can probably try and argue her statement with you or
To be honest, I agree with her general view. However, I feel like I don't agree with her response to this example specific. First of all, I think it's not a good example. I think that anyone, man or like, forget high or low value man or woman, whatever that means. To be honest, I don't really like those terms for real. But
It's just trigger words for engagement.
oh, you know what? You kept it real, and I appreciate that. I feel like it's not a matter of like lowering or heightening your standards to be like, hey, don't talk to me that way. Like, don't talk to me disrespectful. You know what I mean? And like that's probably more a conversation that's going to happen down the line once the relationship is more established. Because realistically, if you're just getting to know someone, if I was just starting to like talk to a man and he was talking to me crazy, I would not see him again after that. So like this wouldn't even be, a conversation. But yeah, I feel like it's really not a good example. I think, James, you just brought that up to, refute our points, but like it didn't really give. So I'm going to have to ask you to come up with something else.
see, okay. I'm trying to get at the concept of a man asking a woman to lower a standard. That doesn't make him low value because if she has an unreasonable standard, then maybe he's giving her a chance in the sense of, hey, I don't think this is that reasonable, and I'm gonna try and reason with you. And if you don't want to relinquish that, then it's just not gonna work. I think that's totally.
So what's an example of a unreasonable standard?
Well, let's just say people are a little bit more fashionably late, and I don't. It's not like a person's standard might be, hey, I want to be able to just, this is just who I am. I'm a type of person who is not on time for anything. And then the girl's like, well, hold on, you were late. You were 15 minutes late. I don't appreciate that. So next time I want you to be here on time. Is that a reasonable standard for her to have? Because me, on the other hand,
That's a reasonable standard.
Okay, but
I like
that doesn't
people
make
who do what they say they're going to do.
But that doesn't make the woman low value because she's asking a man.
No, but what it can make her is not his type, as incompatible with him if it's particularly important that someone be on time for things. And I mean, I mainly because I kind of agree with that, but I don't think that's, it would be natural if a guy wanted to be with someone who went to bed early and woke up early, early bird gets the worm type. I don't have respect for people who sleep till noon, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm fucking sorry. I'm a 2 a.m. to 10, 11 a.m. person. I can't do that.
But I think I understand. So you agree with you agree with my scenario then? You're agreeing with my scenario, Chelsea. So
no, we're saying it's a reasonable standard.
Okay,
is that what you're saying?
Yes. So a man or woman is asking a woman to lower that standard reasonably. It doesn't make him low value, but I think it doesn't, like, if I'm just because I'm trying to basically make things work, that doesn't necessarily make me low value. I'm just trying to negotiate a position. It's just simple. It's like a voluntary economic thing.
Okay, so what about like the big things? Like if he wants her to, like the host said, like, quit her job or something like that, or like take less hours,
To
If
be
a man's asking for that,
why don't you be a stay-at-home dad then?
if a man's asking for a woman to stay at home, look, if a man's asking for a woman to stay at home and he's not able to provide, then that's not reasonable. But if a man is able to provide and the woman doesn't want to stay home, That doesn't make him low value for just asking that.
And it doesn't make her low value for not wanting to stay at home. You get it? There, plenty of people would say it makes her low value.
There are
because
ways
she
that it
doesn't go to
can.
work, and
There are ways that it can make her low value.
Okay, and the dude's low value.
So the dude's low value for asking the woman, "Hey, do you mind staying home instead and watching the kids?"
Is it
Yeah,
standard that
absolutely.
you're asking her to lower, or is it just simply?
Can you
things that
think
people
of
don't
any
agree with?
reason? Can you think of any reasonable? Can you, Chelsea, think of any reasonable reasons why he would ask her to do that?
No.
So what about the kids?
He can stay home. The
Yeah,
only,
but
the
these
only
are like
reasonable, listen, the only reasonable, like, reason he would have to ask that is if he's going to start working full time and he's making six figures. Like, I'm so sorry. If you're
But
going
what
to ask
if?
me to
Go ahead.
quit to take care of your kids, then you need to make more than me. Because what are we doing?
Okay, let's in the scenario where the guy makes enough for her to stay home.
Then maybe she looks at it as, wait a minute, I keep working. Now we're really going to be able to have a retirement and do good and do well for our kids and ourselves.
Yeah, but the kids suffer.
See,
They don't
now
get to
you're
see their
talking
mother.
about a matter. Now you're
Get a
talking about
nanny.
a matter of opinion. It's an opinion that kids suffer when you prioritize income over being with them and
Being a mother.
present.
So money's more important than your own children.
Maybe it's not money, it's what money provides. Money provides stability, medical care, education.
Yeah, for the children.
But the kids don't see that, and oftentimes neither do the wives. Wives complain about,
How about
if I can make the
how
case
about
without getting cut
unrealized
off.
talents because you
I
can't
mean, if you
afford
guys
to
don't wanna-
cultivate natural talents that your children have because you can't afford a fucking piano or
All right, well,
whatever their talent
Yeah,
is.
I can't make the case. Like, you guys want to
No,
have a
go
discussion
ahead, go
about it?
ahead.
Or?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's crazy. I freaking forgot, like, getting cut off.
Oh,
Tiana, I keep forgetting. How old are you, babe?
I'm 24.
Okay, just checking. I promise I'll be quiet while you remember your point.
Thanks. I think it was like, damn.
God damn it. I tried to mute myself and I muted you, Tiana.
Oh, no, you're good.
Tiana, could you ask the question again? Did you ask a question?
No, not really. I think my point just still stands. I feel like, especially, I guess, like, to your point, I get what you're trying to say, that, like, you know, usually if the guy is having requests of the woman, like, it's most of the time reasonable. But I feel like, you know, let's not play ignorant. Like, you know what we're talking about when we say lower standards. You know what I mean? Like, it's the
don't.
typical.
So you're saying like a guy with Cheeto dust on his fingers and plays video games asking for
Yeah,
like,
exact.
but
Thank
that's
you.
not,
Exactly.
but that's not the, I'm not going to know that coming into the prompt, what a person's preconceived notions are. All I see is a chick in a green shirt and glasses. I didn't think, I didn't think somebody's, I don't know. I didn't think that.
When you see the words low value, well, let me put it this way: when you hear low value woman, a picture pops into your head, right?
Yeah.
But when it's a man, it's I don't know what you're talking about.
There's many, this type of woman can be a low value woman. A woman who doesn't look like her can be low value. A guy with Cheeto dust on his fingers who lives in the palm basement can be low value.
Okay, so you
A man
have
who
an
makes
idea.
a lot of money
So you
can
have
be
an
low
idea.
value. But maybe you got, Chelsea, maybe you need a better prompt. Because you guys be acting like I'm supposed to know these things.
I just walked back in. I went in the kitchen.
The thing is, I feel like you do, but like
No.
you're trying to act like you don't just to make your argument. But it's like,
No, here's what I thought. Low value, like, what do you mean low value? Because I see a lot, this is what I see a lot. A lot of feminists basically are trying to flip these words and like try and play gotcha games with the so-called red pill community. And it just ends up failing every time. I basically explained to you guys ways that it's reasonable for a woman or a man to lower their standards, and you guys agree. So
no, every example you gave
that
is an
wasn't a
example
standard.
of like trying to find, you know, good communication between the partners, or, you know, trying to like make adjustments where both feel respected and validated. Like, there was no lowering of standards in any of
but
the
that is a
examples you
lowering of
gave.
a standard.
No, it's not. It's not.
Let me ask you this: if I'm looking, if a man who, if an agnostic man comes to me and wants to date me, and I don't date him because he's agnostic, is it because is it because is it because his standard is too low for me or too high for me?
Oof.
Exactly.
No, your
Because
question was freaking confusing.
one person might say he's low value because he doesn't follow a religion, and another might say he's low value because he's not full atheist.
Yeah, but that
You have in the
can be
picture, it
once.
says no religion, but you brought up religion.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's one of my things. Yeah.
Chelsea, you're giving one example that I can agree with you on where it would not be reasonable. But I can give you reasons whether I can give you examples where it's reasonable and you would agree. So just change it in prompt.
My argument is that fucking dude guys, red pill ideology, you don't fucking, you're not the arbitrators of what a high value or a low value man or woman is.
I'm not red pill.
And I really hate this notion that there's like a list, and if you check too many boxes on the list, you're low value, and if you don't check enough, you're high value, or the opposite, you know?
But it's just a reality. This is how that's how a lot
Because
of men
it's
and
not
women
You can dislike it. It doesn't make it not true.
like the problem. The problem is, I think you might have a disagreement with the way. Do you have a disagreement with the way men select for mates?
Well, that's another part of it.
I mean, men select what
Say
they
men
can.
like you all select the same way when no, you fucking don't. OTM, tell us your age real quick with your
37.
37. Cool. So I guess
But real quick, when we're having these conversations, we talk in generalities because otherwise there's no point. Don't you agree that most men choose pretty similarly, though? Like, of course, some men might like different things, but don't most choose pretty similarly,
only
with or
in the
without
sense-
guidance from the red pill community?
Not
only in
really.
the sense that most choose women that are they go as attractive as they possibly can, and they like to be the ones in control. Those are usually the only generalizations that I say is most of them.
Okay.
But is there anything wrong with that?
Others are not.
Is there
even
anything
half,
morally
I would
wrong
say.
with that?
What?
Is there anything morally wrong with men generally wanting those two things?
Yes.
So Tiana says there is something morally wrong. What about you,
Morally?
Chelsea?
I think when you're talking about a romantic partner, the rules of what's considered. Nah, I think the rules are different. I don't think it's.
Yeah, but this is you disagreeing with the literal market trend. You're saying most men don't want that.
No, I'm saying that is one example of something that most men do want is an attractive woman. I will agree with that.
And one
But
that
I
they can have
disagree that
control over
most men
for it.
want a woman with low body count,
Yep.
who's young, who has a tiny waist. Like,
Yep.
I disagree with
All
most.
very desirable.
But you're saying most men don't want that, Chelsea?
I'm saying I disagree that most men do want those things that I just listed. I absolutely.
So wait, you don't think they want it, or you don't think they should? You don't think they want those
said that
things?
they
I don't
She's
think
just-
that
she's
that
agreeing
is
with y'all.
the stereotype that most men want. I don't.
Well, where are you getting
I
your
think
data
some,
from?
I think some men like them short and curvy and dark headed, and some men like them tall and thin and blonde, and some men like them 19, and some like them 32.
What do most like though? What do most like?
I don't think I really don't. Most
Over
you have to say at
51%.
least more. You would if you say most, then you would have to say at least more than 50%, and
Yeah,
I
51.
don't think more than 50%.
Well, technically, most could be 10% because there could be like 15 categories, and 10% could be the highest one.
Okay, but the thing is, regardless,
younger or
whatever you're
older.
trying to claim,
Okay,
you need
but listen,
sources to back
younger,
Y'all are
younger
too
or
specific
older.
about your
What do they
notions
prefer?
about what men do and don't.
Younger or older, what do they prefer? Do they prefer 22 or 32?
Why don't you say since you know the answer?
Well, we're asking Chelsea.
I'm
What do
asking
you mean they? Are we talking about what age?
51%
bracket? I
of
think
men, if you
want
surveyed
different
them.
things at different ages. I think a 60-year-old man would rather be with a 32-year-old than a 22-year-old.
I just want to before you
men,
answer,
all men.
real quick, Mr. Q or OTM.
Yes, sir.
I think this is a root issue because you might have a problem with men's standards, which is why your thing is this. Like men having
I
standards
don't, I
in a
don't care
sense.
what men's standards are. I have my person.
Well, I think you
I'm
do
not
care because there's a
individual.
You care so much that you won't even agree that they're true.
yeah. It's like a to me this seems to be like a self-evident thing. Men want women who
So
Where are y'all
generally
getting this information from?
So here's where we're getting it from. There's evolutionary psychology. It's a real field. Dr. David Buss is the best author if you want to go read. He's got about 7 really good books. They went across, I think it was 27 different cultures, completely different people who don't know each other and don't have access. Some of them don't even have access to the internet. And they decided, what are the things that you look for in a woman? And guess what? All 27 cultures came back with pretty damn similar things. They wanted youth, fertility, beauty, and agreeance. That's what they wanted.
so that translates to you said youth, fertility.
Youth, fertility, beauty, and agreeance.
Those are pretty much hook, line, and sinker with low body
When you
count,
say youth, how low are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly. How does that
Will you
work?
go
Of
with
legal
the
age.
small
So okay, so 19 to 25 is the target point that most of the cultures came across. They could vary to like 20 to 26 or 18 to 24, but 19 to 25 was the average. That's just old enough to, be an adult, and it's just young enough to give you 4 or 5 kids if you want to have them.
I mean, I've never had trouble finding child-free atheist men who didn't have tattoos and jacked up trucks.
Yeah, but this is
because
your experience.
Okay,
Why
but
not
did
take
you
yourself
have any,
out
did you have any
outside of
luck
that
keeping
experience?
any of them as a husband though?
What do you mean as a husband?
I mean,
Wait a minute. Is the goal now marriage?
Well, like, any woman can find men to sleep with them, but like we're talking about long-term dating here, are we not?
Well, you say that as if like you automatically assume my goal is to be married.
Well, we're not. Oh
Well,
man,
not married. Are you
This
looking
is
for a
this is a
long-term
can of
relationship
worms.
or?
Just exclusivity. We'll figure it out as we go along. We don't need to have
Okay.
a longer plan to one day
Okay,
get married. Let's
so
just be
so with
happy
this
now.
study, so with this study, they were looking for what kind of girl or woman would you want to be long term with? It actually wasn't for marriage because some of these cultures don't do marriage, so that would be exclusivity. Most guys would prefer exclusivity with the younger woman, but a lot of guys would certainly have fun with the 32-year-old too as well.
But the younger thing doesn't fly when, you don't want children or when you want someone who's on the same intellectual level as you.
Well, most men want children.
Not when they're 35, 40, and they already know what they're doing in life. No, most men don't want children. I've never had trouble finding men who didn't
Well,
want
I
children.
mean, if you could
My
just, if
entire
you could,
life.
Chelsea, just step outside of like your experience, because I understand those are a lot of experiences you had, but can you at least engage with like the idea that generally men
I
would
don't
want
think
these
most
things?
men, I don't think more than 50% of men want children. I don't.
Is it because of your experiences, or is it because of what you observed of men, like outside of like your
No, it's not.
anecdotes?
It's not anecdotal. It's
Well, you've
Well,
only
I
given
gave you a
anecdotes.
study across
You gave me
27
studies.
cultures. I mean, I think that's a little bit more viable information.
I mean,
Those studies were probably
who are we
flawed,
getting the
though.
data from?
Studies were flawed, of course.
Yeah.
The guy went and they surveyed men and they didn't tell them why they were doing it and they asked them questions. Flawed.
Yeah, surveys can be biased. Surveys can be poorly designed.
So,
Yeah, and then that's
I'm
what
not
people
saying
say when they want the survey to have different answers. Obviously.
well,
Okay.
Tiana, you seem to have like
so then,
a disagreement with.
what's the main takeaway from that? So you think that this study kind of proves a really good point about what men want. So by
Just
your
that men
logic,
have
all men
standards.
should be, because that's what they want. All men should be going for, the type of woman
And some
that
men
you
don't
just
qualify
described.
for it though.
Well,
some men
Tiana,
aren't good enough for those
well,
women.
OTM, it's two different things though. Two different things, because making like an observational statement and then making a value judgment is different. Like if I describe something,
No. I'm not making a value judgment. I'm saying by that logic, why are not all men in the world going after the subset of women that was identified in the study as most desirable? By
Because
that
not all
logic,
men can
women
get
over
those
40
ones.
should
because there's
have
more
no
because
hope
there's
in getting a
also
husband.
there's more men than there are those women. They can't all have one. Sorry.
that's one reason. Another reason it could be because men have different mating strategies.
So
like-
basically, men settle.
I'd like
Yeah,
to point
men-
out here that, as with everything, there's always a bell curve. So if you'd like to think of it like on average, the majority of men fall into the center of the bell curve where these are their preferences.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell us how old you are?
I'm 34.
All right, cool. Crimson, let me get your age real quick.
50.
50. All right. What's your opinion on the prompt?
I don't think that men are really focused too much on wanting a woman to lower her standards. I think that men feel that we aren't allowed to have standards because if a woman comes to us and says that I'm not going to date you because you make less than 200K a year and you're trash and you're a brokey, that we're fine with that. We don't care. But
Yeah, we could try to make more money at that point.
I mean, are you? Are you?
and we sit there and yeah, I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me. I've been happily single for over 6 years since my divorce, and I'm happy. And I mean, I'm good with it. So I could care less. But I do know this: if I do decide to date a woman, and I'm out there in the dating field, and this woman approaches me, and she's not to what I prefer or what I like or matching my standards, and I shoot her down and say, no, I'm sorry, you're not what I want because you do not meet this standard. You're too tall or you're too overweight or what have you, then I'm looked at as I am being misogynistic.
No.
And that's totally wrong. I mean, women are allowed to have your standards, but why can't a man have his standards?
I will say that there's nothing wrong with what you just said, but you also don't need to say because you're too fat or because you're whatever. You can just simply say no thank you and walk away.
Look,
Right.
see, look, this is the thing. Here's another thing. This is the issue. Women have a problem with how men process things, have a problem with how we respond, they have a problem with how we deal with things. And this is why I think to connect the issues, you guys have a problem with men's standards because before he even came in, you guys are denying that we even have him in the first place. You guys are saying, no, it doesn't exist. No, that's not true. My experience is,
Not
it's
at
like,
all. I've never
said it wasn't true.
pursued a guy who I was not equally yoked with. You know what I mean?
no, I
Like
don't know what you mean.
Okay, so can I go through one more scenario with you real quick? It'll take less than 30 seconds. Do you think so? Me and James obviously probably talk to a lot of men about these issues. The men you're talking about to these issues, don't you think it's possible that they'll say anything to make you happy at that point because they might be trying to pursue you? Is that possible at all? Like, will you just concede that that is a possibility at least?
Absolutely.
Okay. So when you say, like, I've never had any problem, I've never done this, you know, maybe some of those guys are going after you for long-term engagement. Maybe some of them are just short-term, whatever. We're talking about, you know, millions of men who have made it pretty evidently clear, not just through the study that I cited, but, you know, just go spend 15 minutes scrolling through TikTok comments on some of these videos. Do you think they're all just lying? Do you think all the men who are saying they want these things are all lying? Or do you think there could be truth to that they want, you know, these young, fertile, low body count, low mileage, agreeable women?
No, I just think they're delusional.
Yeah, they might be delusional because they might not be able to get that. I agree with you. But do you think they want them is what I'm asking, not if they're delusional. I agree with you. A lot of them are delusional.
And then they get it and don't know what to do. I think they want it and they get it and it's way more than they thought it was going to be.
Well, see, we could say the same thing to these women that say, well, because you don't make 200K a year, you're a brokey, and I'm not even going to give you the time of day.
No one has
When they
ever
don't
said
even
that to
know-
you. Come on now.
When
not
they
exactly.
don't, can I finish my statement?
Oh,
And you don't know what people have said to me and what people haven't said to me. You are not in my life. You are not in my circle. You do not know where I hang out or anything like that. You're
okay.
making
Sorry,
an
King. Go
assumption
ahead.
to fit your narrative.
Mr. Crimson, if I could give another maybe more believable example. I'm not saying that's not, I believe it. But like, what about guys who were saying, or women, if you scroll on TikTok, women are just constantly claiming body count doesn't matter. That's basically their statement. Or, you know, if you care about this, you're insecure or you're not endowed enough, if you get what I'm saying. Like, all this shaming around men's standards is a literal thing.
And there are,
I feel like
and to be perfectly honest with you, I have literally seen pages on TikTok where the women sit there and have in the prompt, if he makes less than this amount, don't date him. Date him for his money. I have actually seen these. So they do exist.
is that so crazy to want that standard though? I just want to say
No,
one thing.
it goes
I
back to
feel
what
like-
I'm saying. Is it's not realistic, and that's the heart of the
Okay.
issue.
Okay, that's fair. I feel like, first of all, in terms of realisticness, when it comes to income, it depends what number we're talking about. 200K, yes, I agree. Of course, that's unrealistic. That being said, I found that it doesn't matter what number women say on that, men tend to have a problem with it. But okay, that's neither here nor there. I feel like usually women's standards, this is my issue. Women's standards are things that you can change. Men's standards tend to be things that you cannot.
Height is not something.
That's actually the very opposite.
No.
Man cannot change his height.
Besides weight, men's standards, usually it's things that cannot be changed.
Can you give an example?
can you give an example?
Because in my experience, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, can you give
Okay,
an example?
sure. Age, body count, like y'all just said.
A man
Can't settle
can a
down
man
young?
change his
Well,
height?
let Tiana speak,
So-
Crimson.
Hair.
Hair do they have?
Okay, baldness or hair? Hair? Men don't really care about hair.
so
if you thick, we don't care.
It is not things that you can change per se, but they are things that you have control over. So weight and body count specifically are things that you have direct control over by making correct decisions within your life so that these things aren't going out of control. Hair may not necessarily be one, but that's also not a deal breaker per se. It's just a sign of health.
That's if you sign on to the notion that being overweight is a bad thing and being thin is a good thing, and that having a low body count is a
Chelsea,
good thing. and
Chelsea,
having
whether
a
it's
high body count
but
is
Chelsea,
bad.
whether it's good or bad is not necessarily what we're discussing. It's whether it exists, whether this market trend for men exists.
Well, no, you're prescribing like what you're saying is
no,
high body
description.
count is bad, and not
Well,
everyone
look-
agrees with
But
that.
look,
Yeah.
if I could, real quick,
The exact
OTM.
equivalency. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
You know what, OTM, go ahead. I'll let you go. Go ahead.
I was going to say the exact equivalency would be, as a man, saying, well, that's like you saying making more money is a good thing, but making less money is automatically a bad thing. Well, you know,
Yeah.
objectively
How
speaking,
much money you make.
objectively speaking, women want guys that make more money than less, probably, just like men want women
Yes, they
with
do.
less partners. It's
Okay,
just
so
an
what does it
objective
mean if a
fact.
woman
It's
has
not,
more-
it
if a
doesn't
woman
matter if
has
it's right
more
or wrong.
partners, why is that a bad thing? I can
I'll
explain
give you-
why
I'll
women
give you a
have
couple
more
reasons.
money
Wait,
than
I
I
just
just want to
men
add on
don't
one
have
thing.
much,
I just want to
but-
add on one thing. If we're talking about, okay, this is where I might lose y'all, but body count, technically, I cannot change how many bodies I've had in the past. That's all I'm going to say. I can change it.
Right.
I can
Like a
control it in the
man.
future.
Yeah, but,
Right.
but it is in your control throughout your life, though.
And it
Yes.
is a direct showing of your behavior over time, and those are the things
Yes.
that show us
what if
as
I
a
changed?
risk
What if I
factor
changed?
Really,
for
no,
somebody
Tiana,
being
what
the
you
mother
should
of
have done
our
was you should
children.
have settled down with the second or third because
Right.
it's bad to have high body counts. So when you come to a certain point, you better just take what you can get because you can't fucking keep drawing.
But
every
can
time.
we before we move forward,
Don't get with them until you know.
before we move forward, can we get Chelsea? Can we get you and Tiana to agree that men generally care about body count? Can we, like, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but can you at least?
No, I will not say that because I've had very few people ever even ask me
okay, all right.
that question, let alone proclaim that a high body count is
All right,
a
well,
bad
all right, well,
thing.
Tiana, what about you? Can you, Tiana, whether it's right or wrong is not what I'm asking you. I'm just asking you. Can you at least
Like,
agree
are
that?
you really asking
Generally,
women
at
out
my
on
age
dates?
now,
Like,
honestly, no. When I was younger, yes, but I
So,
feel like
so you don't think that men care about that generally? You don't think men care about it?
if they cared, they would ask.
Well, Chelsea,
ask a
well, wait, let Tiana answer.
Do you really
Well,
ask women
Can I
that
at least
question?
get the
I don't
sister
think
to
you do.
answer,
I think it's just an
Tiana?
argument
Or
you have on TikTok.
Chelsea, why you barking, man? Can I at least get Tiana to answer?
So
oh,
I will say this as a
Here we go.
very, very astute observation from dudes. It is not something that you are more or less allowed to ask, but it's something that we use contextual clues for. So if you go out with a girl and she happens to know every bouncer that is at every club that you guys go to, you start to ask questions. If you start to get to know her friends and you start to understand that she has a past, like she used to sleep around in college, you start to seriously reconsider the relationship. It's not something that we are allowed to ask flat out, just like in all relationships.
Is it that she's had a lot of bodies,
But look,
or is it
the
why
proof
she has the
the
bodies?
proof of you spurging and getting emotional about it is the reason
Don't
why
tell
men
me I'm
don't
getting
ask.
emotional because I'm asking.
You keep cutting off. I can't even get
before
Tiana.
You segue into the next
I
topic,
can't even get
let's
Tiana to
unpack
answer the
what you
question.
said.
Oh,
You won't even let
again,
Tiana answer the question. All I asked was, Tiana, do you think men
Okay,
care
hold
about it
on.
generally?
Before anybody says anything, let me have the talking stick for a second. T, how are you? Can you tell us your age?
Hi, I'm doing very well. I'm 25.
All right, cool. I just wanted to get that out of the way really quickly. Carry on.
Thank you. Tiana, do you think generally men care about it?
Honestly, I have to agree with the host on it. I don't think they care that much at this age now. I think generally more immature, younger men, they might,
Here we go.
but at a certain point, it becomes irrelevant, to be honest.
So if men care about it, they're immature. If they're older, if they're
No,
up,
I
if
didn't
they're
say that. I said
well,
younger men,
okay, so
more
if older
immature
men-
men tend to care more.
if older men care about it, are they immature?
Yeah, a bit.
Okay, so I'm explaining to you guys the reason why it's difficult to have this conversation is because we're shamed for having it.
Well, why do you care so much what we think about your standards? Like,
Why do I
tried to
care?
tell you multiple
Because
times and we've been cut off.
because very specifically, these are things that we use as contextual clues for behaviors that we would consider for the mother of our children.
Like loyalty?
These things are very valuable to us because the way that you act has a direct effect on our kids.
So
Okay.
loyalty,
We are
paternity.
using some of these
why
standards.
do you care if women don't like that, if they shame you for having those standards? Just find a
Because
woman
I
who
think
meets
women
them.
because women should
Because it's an
care.
unproductive conversation.
Women should care. Women should care.
Well, not only that,
Hey, hey, Cookies.
there was,
Why?
there was a statement.
What's up?
There was a statement that was made by one of the ladies on here. I don't know which one it was. That said that men have standards that women can't change, and women don't have standards that men can't change. In fact, they do, because how many times has a man gone up and asked a woman out, and she has told him, "You're too short for me." A man cannot change his height.
Do some stretches.
You're not going to grow.
And so that's the other. That's the other. That's the other
You
thing
have
women do besides.
to eat your vitamins and all that, like.
That's the other thing women do
Good when you're
besides
younger
shame men
and
for their
you'll grow.
preferences. When we try to do it back to them, they like, hey, oh, you fix it, get taller. Scrub.
Yeah, fix
Like
it.
it's all shaming all the time, no matter which.
Is
side.
that not what y'all were just
Well,
talking
here's
about?
here's
Count
the
and
problem is
any other standards that y'all listed? It's the
you
same
you guys
thing.
should care about it.
Hold on. When you list a standard, you're saying, hey, you're not measuring up. Do something about it, or I don't want you. Yes or no?
That's not
Tell me
always the
I'm wrong.
case because sometimes you can't do anything about it.
It's
Okay,
not.
then you move on.
You're right.
I did want to
There's nothing
ask
wrong with that.
something just to
Yeah, but you
that.
directly said
But
that
there is
men
something
only
wrong with
worry
it for
about
y'all.
things that women
If I
can't
think a man
change.
is too short, if he's 5 foot and I don't want him, then I'm in the wrong. I'm shallow.
No, you're not. If you think he's too short and that's what your preference is,
And if
then
a
go
woman
ahead.
has too many, if a woman has too many bodies, she's too
But,
dangerous.
well, I mean, I guess I understand it. Real quick,
Dangerous is
foundation.
crazy.
Can I get
Well,
your
Chelsea's trying to get the
for
age.
TikTok compliance real quick?
Age and what else?
How old are you?
35.
All right, cool.
Hey T, what did you like to ask? I heard you say you wanted to ask a question.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask you.
interrupting.
For modding, I was just about to say exactly that. What's up, T?
I do, because I've been listening, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm judging your guys' standards. I get everyone has them, but for the people on here that do care about body count, my question is, do you keep yourself to the same standard about body count? So if your partner can only have so many partners, do you keep yourself to that same standard, or do you not?
Of course.
Okay, because
Definitely.
I don't, and here's why.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't though.
Okay, so
Because
hold
women
on,
don't seem
before
to
you
care is
start,
why.
though, hold on, before you start, my thing is, if you don't hold yourself to the same standard, then what you think about that woman right? She's loose. She's not, she can't be in a relationship. She's not responsible. She's a danger to whatever. You're basically saying that about yourself. So you can name your reason, but essentially you can't hold yourself to the same standard that you're holding someone else to. So how can you expect them to respect the standard that you don't follow yourself?
Because that's not how the standard works in this case. The standard is if I care about something, she doesn't have to care about the same thing. The thing she cares about, I have to hold myself to
Just
those
because I
standards.
want a tall man doesn't mean he needs to require a tall woman. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same.
Exactly. And the thing I was thinking about is money. My fiance doesn't work. She helps me with my job sometimes, but it would be ridiculous for me to require her to make the same amount of money as me when I'm the one that we decided at the beginning of the relationship that I'm handling the earning.
Yeah, and I think your claim rests on the premise that men and women are equal when we're not. So we have different standards that we hold for each other that are different.
Right. And
Men and women are equal but
There's
different.
a difference between equal and twins. I'm not saying we're not trying to say we're exactly the same. We mean we're equal as in one of us is not superior to the other.
Well, I can
Yeah, and also, can I just say to us, women saying that y'all are equal to us is honestly kind of generous. So I feel like, take what you can get.
Tiana trying to throw some steak on.
Can I just really quickly introduce Mallory and ask you how old you are, hun?
Hey, thank you. I'm 29.
Cool. Okay. But what I do want to say before my ADHD has this slip off the other side because the queue gets too full is that when we're talking about body count and you say, well, if I find out her body count is higher, that's indicative of other personality traits that are not desirable to me, or she's ran through, or she's easy, or whatever. I honestly have to push back on that and say that I think it's a false dichotomy, because the things that you are saying having a high body count are indicative of are not accurate even most of the time. One person can have a high body count simply because she dated a guy for 2 or 3 months. They slept together once or twice. It didn't work out. Dated a guy for a few months. Didn't work out. Like, you can't just eventually say, oh shit, now I'm getting up to like 8, 9 guys. I have to choose one now because I'm going to run out of like how many I'm allowed to have before I'm considered low value.
Isn't that a pattern though?
That's not so that's not what I'm saying at all, but it starts to beg the question, why are you not stopping to think about your decisions?
For all my adult life?
Yeah, but
Well, so why are you not stopping to think about your decisions and the things that you do and the way that you're picking men at a certain point? Like, you just continue on going through like 4 people a year for like 10 years.
What are you saying? Now she's picking wrong. She's not learning anything from the experiences. Otherwise, she would have found someone.
It's up to the.
It's a pattern at that point. It's a pattern.
Yeah, I can even.
Not necessarily.
But here's the thing.
You can't say that. You don't
Chelsea,
know. I'm not even. This is a theoretical.
You just described a pattern and then said it was not a pattern.
Talking about.
But don't you think it's? Can we at least agree that it's fair for women to discriminate in one way, and they don't owe a man. They don't owe a man their understanding. In the same way, a woman is not owed a man does not owe a woman understanding, and vice versa. So, like, however she got the bodies is irrelevant. However short this guy is irrelevant.
That is what matters. What makes you a 304 isn't how many, or it's why you
But
did it.
Is
it because you did it for a connection with someone you have feelings for, or was it?
But OTM,
for
I can answer and you'll agree. OTM, a woman having all these unsuccessful relationships says something about her ability to pick a mate, whether or not she.
It doesn't mean she's
prescribe that same. We don't prescribe that same.
Well, that's fine, but men, we don't care. We're just going to disqualify you because.
Would you agree that past decisions you make are the best indicator of future decisions that you're going to make? Would you agree with that in general?
No.
Yeah.
No, and that's why.
Okay, well, you can't have a conversation with people.
Yeah, because that's like saying if hold on. That's like saying, hey, look, as an employer, I want to make sure you're not late, so I'm going to see if you were late with your last employer and the employer after that or before that. You're going to say, well, that doesn't matter. I'm not going to be late anymore. The man is perfectly within his reason.
Someone by what they did in their 20s, and when we're in our 40s, for example. So no, I don't think the past is indicative.
What about kid diddlers?
That is, bro. Come on now.
With the
doesn't
statement still
matter.
stands.
It's actually it's
No,
actually
because at a certain point,
psychologically
that has a mental illness quality to it. So
So
let's put
to
it this
solve this
way.
problem, I'm going to state something very clearly here. It may not be a showing because people can absolutely change. Like hell, I started working out this year. Everybody changes, right? The point is the period of time that it takes you to discover what you need to change is kind of what we're looking out for specifically. Like if you're taking a very long time to correct behavior that you realize was kind of fucked up to begin with. Sorry, I don't know if I can fucking cuss on here. Sailor habits. I apologize. If you're taking a very long time to correct behavior that is very clearly obvious to the opposite gender that is wrong, I'm sure women can find an example about men in this aspect. It's a sign that it is necessarily like we might not really want to be with that.
Yeah, the example for men in this situation would be, from a woman's standpoint, would be his finances. Like, let's say a man always makes poor financial decisions, and then all of a sudden they're on a date, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm broke right now, but baby, give me 2 years, and I'm gonna be balling." Like, how that's gonna be real hard to believe. You know what I'm saying? Like,
If you have a track record of continually to gamble, it's kind of a similar
there's
aspect.
nothing different about
That's
it.
why that's
Yeah.
why you don't ask what their income is. You ask what their credit score is and what they're doing for their retirement account.
Exactly.
That's indicative.
Exactly.
Of what kind of
This is
person
this is why we
later.
don't ask about body count.
exactly.
This is why we use contextual clues.
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
As well, and to even
what
further that
contextual
aspect.
clues are you looking out
I've never
for?
had anyone ask me my body count unless there was like something relevant and like
Because-
I volunteered it, but I've never had a dude straight up say,
Because body count's not important. It's not. You're
Yeah,
missing the
he's-
point. The
he's
body
tripping.
count
This dude's
isn't
tripping.
important.
That's what your
matter.
friends are saying. They're saying that it's important.
No, but body count is just a slang term kids say nowadays. It's not about the body count. Not for
Yes,
a
it is.
35-year-old.
Yes, it is.
No, dude.
That's
Not
what
for
I
a
was saying.
30.
God, who the hell is counting? I don't know what that number is.
Not for a 30. Not for a 35-year-old man.
All right, so let me ask you a question, test the logic.
What's
Let me ask you a
important
question,
is-
test the logic.
What's important is, well, first you got to hear my logic before you test it.
You already made one claim I disagree with.
What's important is not the body count. What's important is her current actions. How does she move? Is she in the streets? Does she go to the clubs? How many men has she seen recently? Not in her 30 years of life. When I was 21, I was making completely different moves than I'm making now at 35. You know what I mean? So a man who has more life experience, it's not necessarily, she slept with 50 men. It's, okay, I'm 35, you're 35. Where are you at in your life now? What are you doing now? What moves are you making now?
Yeah, exactly.
Disagree.
Please,
So
sir, I
Salvation
really
Verse,
just
can I
wanna
ask you
ask-
a question? Because you're in
Wait,
disagreement
wait.
with most of the men here. Salvation, can I ask you a question?
Well, I'm probably older than all of you, too.
I'm 32.
No,
Doesn't
I'm
really
50.
matter.
I'm 34.
So Salvation.
Age does matter.
So Salvation,
Yeah, I'll be 40
can
on
I ask you a
Sunday.
question? If you had to choose between a woman who was 35 and had 100 bodies and a woman who was 35 and had one body, both the same, who
Yeah.
would you choose?
What else do I know about them?
They are both exactly the same.
Both exactly the same?
Would you choose the one with 50 bodies or the one with
Let's say
one?
they're twins.
Yeah, I'm choosing the one with one.
All right, well, but this is what I'm saying. Like, it's probably not the best idea to say it doesn't matter because deep down, I'm trying to argue that it does. We're trying to argue that it
Well,
does.
what
here.
if they say they have 50 bodies, or let's just say it's a high body count, whatever that number is for you. But all of them except one were more than 10 years ago because they've been with the same person that they haven't cheated on for a decade. Now you can't go by the same, well, she has a high body count, so she's automatically, disqualified. You have
Well,
to ask more questions.
Here's the
high
thing.
body
Here's the
count
thing.
obviously wouldn't matter if you knew it was one person
Look,
for the last 10 years.
Look, a man is within his right to disqualify a woman if she had 50 bodies 50 years ago,
Oh,
and
you
she
can
hasn't had any.
disqualify her for any fucking thing you
But
want.
this is the thing. Like, you're not
I
being
respect
reasonable
that.
once again because it's like saying, well, we don't want
But she
felon.
has a right to
but
disqualify
Chelsea,
you for
hold on.
whatever your qualifiers are. Do you understand
Of course,
that?
we all.
I can
But I'm
disqualify
not going to
you
shame
just
women.
because you asked the question.
But here's the thing, Chelsea.
course.
If if an employer wants to hire somebody, he says, I don't want felons, and then the person who's an ex-con is like, well, don't you want to know what the crime was? Don't you want to know the reason why I did it? Don't you want to know what was the outcome? We don't. The employer doesn't care, and the employee is not
Can I respond to
entitled
that?
to that job.
Having sex isn't a
Okay,
crime.
that's totally fair.
Yes, but there's not a global campaign shaming employers for not hiring convicts. What's going on right now is there's a global campaign shaming men for caring about body count because of the feminists.
You're allowed to care about body count, and you're allowed to say, I don't care if it was more than a decade ago. That's still too fucking many. That is fucking fair. And all I'm saying is you don't get to get mad when she says, I'm not only am I not answering your question, her body count is 3 maybe, but now you are disqualified, and now this is a deal breaker just because you asked. Not because my answer wasn't good enough, just the question. You're
right.
done.
You're right.
Move
It's
on.
a value system thing. Women don't care about it, even though they should, because they just blatantly disregard men's
Just
wishes.
the same as if she sat there across the table and said, how much do you make? And you said, nope, I'm fucking done. You get
There's
up
a
and
difference
you walk
between an
away. You don't
unreasonable
wanna date
expectation and a
fucking bitch who
reasonable
asks
one.
you your income on the first date.
There's a difference between a reasonable expectation and an unreasonable one.
In 2000, right, exactly, reasonable and
You want an example of unreasonable
Well, let me ask you
expectation?
why-
Look at
let me-
any
You
of
say,
them.
I don't drink, and they fucking proceed to take tequila shots. Nope,
Let me
done.
ask
Walk
you
away.
why, like you said, reasonable and unreasonable. Let me ask you why body count is necessarily important in 2024. You know what I mean? Like
You're asking why?
when everybody is like in our culture today, everybody's sleeping around.
Yeah, speak for yourself.
Or you were single.
Well, can I
Speak for
ask you a
yourself.
question?
You were
Salvation?
single. You were like nobody waits till marriage. Is my point.
Look,
right?
just because your standards are lower than
Like,
mine,
no.
you can't that's
So
you.
Salvation, can I ask
called
you?
it a lower standard, so you're making, even though you say that
You
you don't want to.
just said let's just say it. Everybody sleeps around. I don't sleep around. I don't know who you talking about. Not
Yeah,
me.
Right,
I know a
but
lot of
that's
them.
not
I know a lot of them do.
but-
Maybe that's you. It ain't me.
I've had years in my
Right,
life
but
where I had
the
a
whole
lot,
time
and
you were
I've had
saying
years at a
that,
time where there was zero.
standards are standards. There's no, low or high, there's no necessarily good or bad standards. And then you just made a judgment for his standards, saying that even though he made a generalization that all people do this, you're like, no, not me. I could never. So what
The
are you
reason why I'm
saying
bringing
about
that up
people
is
who sleep
because,
around?
Tiana, it's because a lot of people want to sleep around and slang wiener.
Exactly.
That's not what I'm doing. That's not what I support, and that's not what I want to marry.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Right, and then you talk down on it, though. That's the point I'm trying to get at.
It is a dirty thing. I will talk down on it. It's gross.
Well, I mean, let me ask you this, James. If you went on a date and you slept together on the first date, would you keep dating her, or would you say, no, fuck that? That's not I can't, not someone who would do that on the first date.
I'll be
is
honest
that-
with you. I'll probably lose attraction. If she gave it up to me that quick, it's likely she gave it up to other men. But if I'm the first one, if I'm the first one,
And how would you feel if she said exactly the same thing about you? Because remember, you slept
She can
with
do
her
that.
on the first date also, buddy.
she can do that.
Exactly.
She probably won't do that though.
Yeah, she won't do that.
Remember, look how you stayed the same when
With
you
most
slept with her on the
men-
first date. Hers went down.
Yeah, but you guys act like women actually care about men's body count. If anything, women are saying they don't want virgins. This is almost the opposite.
Hey, I'm going to interject here because I have a different opinion. I actually think that it's a lot more nuanced than that. And just to say that from the get-go, that because you guys had sex on the first date, like that's it. That's
Say
kind of
that.
weird.
Correct yourself and say Smex, please.
Oh, sorry, schmecks.
But the behavior that women want from men is almost inverse. They want a man with experience. They want a man that knows how to treat them.
Also,
So-
shame.
I had a question.
No,
for
I
Salvation,
definitely-
though.
Women want
All right.
because
Even
even
honestly-
your 666 thing, only one of the sixes even applies to me, and that's because I don't date men who make less money than me.
Right, and
That's
also, like, if
unreasonable
we're gonna be
standard.
realistic, in order to meet people in this day and age, right, in our country, how are you gonna meet women if they're not out at the clubs, on the street, or wherever you're at? It's like they have to, go out and meet people in order to like find quote unquote the good ones like y'all.
She squirted
And
her
that might
handkerchief with
include
her
having
perfume
to
and
sleep
dropped
with
it in
some
front of him
dudes.
when she walked
I
by.
met,
Hey,
I met
Chelsea,
my
come on,
fiance-
man. Why
I met
you-
my
why you-
fiance at the mall.
Chelsea, come on, man.
met
I
her
ain't
at the
not a
mall.
freaking predator.
What?
She's saying I get chlorophyll and I drug them. Is that what you said?
No, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. No, I'm just like,
Church.
I have a rag and I'm like, hey, does this smell like my perfume or chloroform?
No.
And then, like, next thing you know, handcuffs, headboard, the whole thing.
Well, Tiana, to answer your question, I want to. I didn't.
Kidding,
Sorry,
I don't even know who's trolling
Salvation.
me,
I didn't mean
but I
to.
just went with it.
I didn't mean to snap at you, Salvation. It's just I'm just getting a little bit fed up as like a lot of men and women have like these like kind of like flippant expectations of the opposite gender, and I think we should all hold each other to a higher standard.
I've been trying to ask Salvation a genuine question here.
Yeah, what's up, dude?
Have you ever been with a woman, and this doesn't necessarily mean that she even had a high body count, like let's just say, have you ever been with any woman who's projected something that a man from her past did to her that you didn't do to her? Has that ever happened?
Yeah, I think that's general.
Okay, so the follow-up would be this. Don't you think it's more likely to happen in that case if she's been with a lot of men, not just sexually, but like if she's had a lot of boyfriends or a lot of guys around, maybe some of them treated her bad, and she kind of expects that behavior from you now, so she takes it out on you? That's actually the main reason I'm repulsed by not just high body count, but just women who have had a lot of partners in general. Before, I'm engaged now, but they're going to bring that out on you all the time. You're always going to be dealing with, the guy before you or the guy before him did something really bad to her. Maybe he treated her real bad, and like you don't have that behavior, but she expects it. So she's really, she's a whole different person. She has a lot of trauma based on that. Yeah. I don't think women really see that in men, though. I don't think they're like, hey, these men are coming with too much trauma from their past relationships. I think men some are kind of bitch made, but most kind of leave that relationship in the past and don't give a damn anymore about it.
I mean,
You would want a clean slate, basically.
Can I be completely honest on that and sort of step outside the boundaries of being a girl's girl and say that I don't think that anyone should be dating someone that doesn't have their shit together. I don't think you should. This is not the Build a Bro workshop, and I don't think you should date someone and say, well, I can fix them, or maybe they can be what I need them to be, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think you should make exceptions.
So you're agreeing with OTM in the sense that he should.
Yeah, but person with their shit together.
So from a man's standpoint, though, if a woman has done that, let's say since you've known her in 3 years, she's had like 7 boyfriends, and maybe those are the only 7 guys she slept with. I'm not saying that makes her a 304, but I assume that, pretty soon into the relationship, she's going to bring up some of the trauma from all 7 of those relationships, or even worse, maybe those guys actually did something exceptional. She's going to think that you're useless as a partner if you don't do it better than him. It's a fact.
Well, I mean, so
maybe consider the fact that
project. You know what's crazy? He's saying this. It's giving you dated a girl who like did this to you, and you're projecting that women similar to her would do that.
This is something women do often. This is not something that's happened to me particularly.
No, you're projecting.
All right, well, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example that doesn't have to have any projection. Like a lot of women will sleep with men and think that that's their caliber of men that they can get. So it's a standard they hold a lot of men to, even though it's just that these men just wanted to sleep with them and throw them to the side of the road. It has nothing to do with marriage or actually long-term dating, but they'll have this standard that they'll require of all men, which goes back to the point of women should probably lower their standards if they're in that situation. That has nothing to do with projection.
And what he means is like you sleep with the NBA player or the rapper, and now every guy that you come across, you're like, wow, this guy doesn't have a Bugatti.
Right, or you think he's attractive, but you slept with him, but or not you in particular.
In general, this isn't a phenomenon with men, though. There's certainly women who could put it down better than I got with, in college or maybe right after than my fiance that has less experience. But guess what? I don't hold her to the standard. I just assume that she'll learn as we go.
Yeah, but
that's a grace that men give to women. Typically.
Women are notorious for having higher standards for men that they can't even get. But then they'll think that the guy that's their match they think is below them or average.
That women will date down
like y'all are the prize, and we even care. And when we say
what do you mean women will date down?
No. I've got to make an exception on that one. No, that is not true.
Women almost never date down ever.
You may be the exception, Chrisman, but
why would we?
Women
women are more likely to date men who are overweight, who don't make very much money, who don't meet all of their usual standards, whereas a man will sit there and say, I want a woman with this, and this, and then
I would challenge you to read about hypergamy.
I'm fixing to disprove it real quick, guys. Watch this. Hang on, brother. I'm fixing to disprove her theory. You said you will not date a man that makes less than you, right? You won't date a man that works at Burger King
Exactly.
Because he's not making the same
If
amount as you,
Burger
so he
King-
will not
if Burger
date
King
down.
paid-
But a man will date a woman that works at Burger King and lift her up
She's hot and young
all day long.
Women, I will agree with you, Chelsea, where you said women usually date lower than their standard, but they do not date lower than them. A woman will never date a man who earns less than them, who's shorter than them.
You know,
He's gotta have
usually they're
some
manipulated
criteria
into
that makes
thinking
him-
they're with one thing, and then when they find out that he lied, that he's got all this baggage or whatever, they don't just walk away, you know, like they probably should.
It's
But
impossible that they made a misjudgment. They were manipulated every time. Like, come on.
absolutely
Have any
it's possible
accountability
that
here.
they were not manipulated. But OTM, what I also
OTM's
want to do is
agree.
agree
Or
with you
Chelsea.
on your point about someone holding you responsible for what someone in a previous relationship did. Like their man cheated on them in the past, and so now they want to check your phone, and they think that every time you leave the house when you're not around them
Right.
that they're cheating on you and blah blah blah. No, that's a them problem, and I wouldn't let someone treat me that way because I'm not going to be held accountable. to what's
But
past it.
wouldn't you say though
So,
that
that's toxic.
it's in a man's best interest to then, as you just agreed with me on that, to
I did.
maybe try to choose a partner that's had less partners in the past because there's
well,
less
can I-
chances of that projection coming.
That's the build a bitch factory. Don't date bitches who are still hung up on exes who need therapy, not a new boyfriend.
Wait, Chelsea. So we won
Exactly.
you over then.
Everything's-
We won you over.
Everything's no, because
Yeah,
everything's
same
about
thing for the women.
everything-
Quit dating men who work at Burger King if you make $120,000 a year.
I would argue
you know?
it's probably a different standard because women are not dating a lot of. I mean, the standard I would
My
say that
reasoning
women.
for that isn't because I want a rich man. It's because I don't pay bills for men. I need a partner who can take care of themselves, and I need to know that they're with me because of who I am and not because I have more money than them. Because you think you're going to cut the line and like
You don't want a gold digger.
my mortgage and my luxury car without working for it.
men's problem is we're so physical. And just to give you my life experience, like the first woman that I ever fell in love with and I had my first 2 children with, she had a very low body count. I met her when she was young. You know what I mean? She really had slept with 2 men. I knew her since high school, so I knew the information that she gave me was the truth. And she ended up cheating on me, breaking my heart, all kind of stuff. That was years ago. I mean,
See, and I'm gonna say this.
but hold on, just give me a second. So it's a long time ago. I was 21 years old. Later on, I ended up meeting a girl. I didn't even take it serious. I met her. She had a higher body count, but her mental state was in a very good place. We went on a couple dates. We went on a couple dates. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of common interests. We dated for a really long time because I'm not gonna lie. I'm always a very honest person. The body count did alarm me, but I can't be judgmental because, as a younger man, still to this day, but as a younger man, I was very attractive. I had a lot going for myself, and, I did a lot of things that I'm not necessarily proud of when I was younger. So I couldn't judge. So I went along with the relationship, and we ended up now almost 8 years deep, 2 kids, very happy, living a pretty successful life. Doing pretty well. And, it was all because I was more focused on what she had going on upstairs and I was focused on what was going on in her outside world, her past, what was, I wanted to know what she was getting into now, how she was moving now, how she was taking care of herself now. The now is always more important than the past. You know what I mean? And so,
you were like in your 30s and now you're like in your 40s or?
No, when I met her, I was 28. I'm 35 now.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you,
Both
but
of
you
you with
understand that that's not,
major like
that's not
personality.
most men's experience, though.
Yeah,
But I'm saying
we can agree
it's-
with you.
But
It's good that it happened.
experiences are based upon your choices and the choices that you make, and then
That was your risk to take.
Yeah, and that's you
and
being
I'm
the
not gonna
exception to the
lie, I
rule.
was kind of a nobody when my guy met me.
But the exception to the rule proves the rule, station or salvation.
And also, just so you know, Salvation, there's a good possibility that maybe, especially like whatever experience you have in life besides dating, or maybe, you said you did some things you weren't proud of. I think I kind of know what you mean there. I did it too. you get a lot of experience. It is a lot easier to judge, what kind of person someone is acting like at that moment. So I do agree with you on that. But the topic is more a general topic. In general, it is still a higher risk if she's been with more partners. Statistically, it's actually proven that I think it's once I don't know the number. I think it's once a woman gets to like the fifth partner, the probability of her cheating goes up by somewhere around like 13%.
I'm not
And
even.
with a man, that number's 7.
I want to make.
Yeah, but men's default is to cheat and they have to work really hard not to. Whereas with women, it's a conscious thing that they do on purpose for a specific reason, not because it was offered and their ego and their womanhood required them to accept it. Otherwise, they weren't a real woman or whatever.
Right.
Okay, so that's why with that study that I cited, that's why men's percentages of cheating they start off higher, but they don't really go up with more partners that much. I mean, they kind of do, because more promiscuous men are going to be more promiscuous, and but they probably have more access to it, like more women want them. But with women, every woman can cheat if she wants to. Every man can't cheat.
She should.
But we don't.
I'm not even.
Well, you certainly do after 5 partners.
OTM.
That's what the data shows.
You said, what study was that
I
from?
just don't want anyone else to
just threw
touch me.
numbers
I don't
out.
even like the one I'm with.
I'll fetch it up for you. It was like, I think it was a Pew Research study. I'll fetch it up, but the percentages went up after 5 partners for women significantly.
Okay.
But I'm going to say
This is also women who are willing to admit it. These are, there could be lying done, and that I understand that.
No, my thing is this: women have the ability to make their own decisions. Men have the ability to make their own decisions. If the Ariana Grande thing that I think about a lot, they're like, "Oh, well, she stole someone's man." I don't believe in stealing anybody. These are consenting. These are consenting as adults saying,
Can I ask
"I'm
you your
attracted
age?"
to you." 27.
Okay.
These are consenting adults saying that I'm attracted to you. It's unfortunate that she lost her husband. It's unfortunate. It's sad. That's crazy to think about.
Well, not to be rude, but how's this related to the prompt?
I haven't finished. Dang.
No,
I can't even finish.
I'm because I don't believe in cheating. I don't believe in cheating.
Well, that's
I believe
a totally
in,
different thing.
I don't believe in cheating. I don't. Cheating to me means that you don't know what. No. In order to say that someone's cheating means that you notice that they are not attracted to you more than they're attracted to another person.
Yeah, but we're talking about female standards and male standards. I don't know how that has to do with cheating.
Cheating gives people too much power. Not a cheater.
Okay.
You're a liar.
Okay.
And so it becomes this thing where people are like, "Whoa! I never saw this coming." You see him looking at other people. You see that he don't want you to know his passcode. You see a lot of stuff happening. And you want to blame the other woman. You don't want to blame this man.
Right.
Yeah, I disagree. You don't blame the one they cheated with. You blame the one that cheated on you.
Exactly.
Real quick. Hey,
This is a rogue. I just want to point out this is a rogue male. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know if he agrees with me.
They don't
also-
do anymore.
You got me
They just don't
lost.
You
want
guys have to
anymore.
use your critical